I think about the role we play at CNC. We have to continue to evolve our programs to ensure that we're meeting the needs of industry right now. So I look at, the work that's happened at CNC in the areas of technology and their trades. I spent some time in the heavy-duty mechanics trade, and, they talk about the equipment. It's all computer-based now.
Yeah.
So the equipment needs to be upgraded to incorporate computers. How many vehicles do we buy and purchase that don't have a computer in them?
Exactly.
So that's changed. And the heavy-duty equipment that is operated now in forestry and in mining, there's computers in them.
Yeah.
And it's
robotics,
a big part of it. Exactly.
All of that stuff, right?
It's exciting.
Yeah. Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us around the world, British Columbia, obviously an absolutely beautiful, beautiful province, but the best of British Columbia is the north, the northern half. A lot of people know Vancouver. We are about 800 kilometers for our friends in Europe, north of Vancouver, or 500 miles for our US friends. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Sandy Heitman, and she's the president of CNC, the College of New Caledonia, which is an amazing facility serving northern British Columbia, really located here in Prince George, but in other locations as well. Cindy has a very, very interesting background, and we'll get her to tell us all about it. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here today. This is an exciting opportunity.
Well, thank you. And so you've been here for a long time, right, in this region?
Yeah, I was raised here in Prince George. Grew up, attended school here, attended CNC myself as a student. Yeah, when I completed high school, I graduated from what's now Shastee Kelly Road. At the time, it was Kelly Road. Continued on after CNC, and an interesting fact a lot of people don't know, I attended UNBC before there was actually a campus.
Wow.
So I wasn't quite ready to leave the community to pursue an education degree, but UNBC was just establishing themselves as a university, and we participated in what they called at the time online learning, which was a microphone in a classroom, no video, no nothing.
A lot has changed.
Yeah, a lot has changed so much when I think about
So then you went to University of Simon Fraser University in Vancouver.
Yeah, attended Simon Fraser University.
And you got a degree in education.
I have a degree in education, but I also have what they call a Bachelor's of General Studies. At the time, I didn't really know where I was going, and that was in the area of learning disabilities and working with children with special needs.
Yeah, so that's is very, very interesting. And then you came back here and was involved in the School District 57, which is one of the many school districts in northern British Columbia, for about 10, 15 years.
Oh, I was a teacher in the school district for about 8 years, teaching everything from kindergarten, PE, up into grade 10, English and math, and then moved into roles of leadership in 2004. So I actually worked with the school district for almost 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah, from a teacher all the way through in my career to superintendent.
So you know the area well, and you know you were here, as you indicated, when UNBC came all about. That was a battle and a half, because highly political, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it's funded by the incumbent political process, and there is a lot of other parties pulling on that budget and trying to get their part. I was then the president for the riding of where we now have UNBC, Prince George North, and we had quite a battle. And but what we wanted then is not just a university; we wanted a freestanding university. And and obviously that's what it became. And now, kind of looking back, it is amazing what they have done. It's being recognized as the most successful for a number of years already, small universities in Canada, but also CNC has stood out uniquely because it was started in 1969-ish, I believe, and then has ever since that time has grown and expanded. And not only, what is so unique in my opinion about it, and for a guest, I've been here for 60 years. And, in Prince George, I came in July 1965 off the bus. And looking at the boom town, was it was called then. The question was then, when did you come here and when are you leaving? Just to make enough money, and was not much of a family town then, but it is now. It's totally changed, obviously. So, kind of looking back at CNC has usually a unique role. It's not only Prince George, but it's the whole northern British Columbia. And I was looking, at in particular, and I'm looking for a guest. I'm looking at the area that you cover. It's to the north is Mackenzie, Burns Lake to the west, Fort St. James, slightly to the north, and then next to that again Vanderhoof, as well as Quesnel.
That's correct.
And so that is a big region representing about, in terms of population, how many people were you? 50?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our student population continues to grow, but when I look at the area in which we serve, I mean, we're well into 100,000.
Yeah.
And 22 First Nations.
Yeah. And so and it's still growing and expanding, right?
Yes, it is.
So that makes it uniquely different from what I would consider to be where, when I was still in Holland, in one, two colleges, they tended to be more local, slightly regional, but in your case, it's virtually physically the half of the province, because Prince George is about exactly the center of the province.
Yeah.
North to west, east to south.
It is interesting when you think about that. We're considered northern. Geographically, we're actually in the center up, but I noticed in a lot of industries, and especially in education, the way they group us, it is quite often by the north, not understanding that the north for CNC is from Quesnel up all the way. And then, work quite closely with Northern Lights College in Fort St. John and Coast Mountain in the Terrace area. So, and we all feed into UNBC.
Yeah, and the challenge for me has always been that in the 6 years that I've been is saying that I'm a northern and fighting for representation of Northern BC and allocation of dollars to infrastructure that we require, and that includes UNBC, CNC, and all of those things. And then I have to remind my friends from the South that probably 75-80% of the GDP, the gross domestic product of the province, comes from Northern BC.
Exactly.
And I just kind of look down there and say, hey guys, don't forget it. So that has been, in a lot of cases, a challenge, because we are, as a province, we are starting to approach probably, 5.7 million people, nearly 6 million people in this province. And obviously a lot of them are from the South. And then the economic opportunities are in Northern BC a lot of times, because it's still very much a frontier from an economic perspective, because not only lumber, but we have so many resources, such a good location strategically to the global markets, because more and more we are playing a role in the global markets.
Yeah, absolutely. Industry's changing.
It's changing.
It's evolving. And, I think about the role we play at CNC. We have to continue to evolve our programs to ensure that we're meeting the needs of industry right now. So I look at, the work that's happened at CNC in the areas of technology and their trades. I spent some time in the heavy-duty mechanics trade, and they talk about the equipment. It's all computer-based now.
Yeah.
So the equipment needs to be upgraded to incorporate computers. How many vehicles do we buy and purchase that don't have a computer in them?
Exactly.
So that's changed. And the heavy-duty equipment that is operated now in forestry and in mining, there's computers in them.
Yeah.
And it's
robotics,
a big part of it. Exactly.
all of that stuff, right?
It's exciting.
Yeah. So it also becomes a question of sometimes what I feel is that, and obviously I've been very proactive in both UNBC and CNC, and it was about 8 months ago maybe, I did a presentation at BCIT, British Columbia Institute of Technology.
Yep.
For a guest around the world, and and I went down there. I think they have 40,000 students, and I stood in the middle of there and saying, where do I go? Because there's buildings all over the place, and then recently, I think about 6-8 months ago, they announced another capital infrastructure project of about $250 million. Mm-hmm. And some of our major finance companies had contributed to that. What I don't fully understand sometimes, and I question, is, I've been very proactive in growing infrastructure, teaching, learning, skill sets, infrastructure in northern BC, because when I made the donation to CNC in 2005, and obviously very pleased with the name, John A. Brink Trades and Technology Center, the presentation that I made then is that it is not access to resources, it will not be transportation infrastructure, it will not be global presentation in terms of location, and it will not be capital or availability of capital, but what it will be is access to a skilled workforce.
Yep.
That's what I said then will be the deterrent for investment in northern British Columbia. I believe we're still challenged by that. I want to see, with all due respect to our political friends of the day, and that changes from time to time, but that to put more of an investment in the center of excellence, I call it, that will go even further between CNC potentially and UNBC. I believe that's the next step where we have to go.
Yeah, it is. And you look at the labor market outlook, it announced 75% of future jobs will require a type of post-secondary. What we're noticing a lot of the time too, are students are coming back with a concept of upskilling. So they're in their career, they're in their trade, they're working, but as we evolve and the advancements with technology, people are finding that they need to increase their skills in those areas. So providing opportunities for people to what we call upskill, to stay current with industry needs. We work quite closely with UNBC and have one really great program that we talk a lot about, and that is the nursing program, where students do 2 years at CNC and then transfer up to UNBC to get their bachelor's in nursing science. So there's so many opportunities for that to happen, and I feel really fortunate that we get to work with UNBC and that we're so actually physically close together.
Yeah. That
there's limitless possibilities for us to create programs for people to attend, and really looking at come to the north, train in the north, and stay in the north. We know northerners, we like to stay here. Back to what you said earlier, you talk to people who say they came to Prince George for 2 years, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And once you're here, you stay. You don't want to leave.
No.
So how do we create opportunities for students of all ages, doesn't matter where you are in your learning path, to come, get the skills, the experience, the knowledge, so they can continue on. And quite often it is in the north.
Yeah, and I found, a year or so, I forget now exactly when, but around the boardroom table of the Brink group of companies, we had 5-6 people sitting there, and every single one of them got a degree from UNBC and was involved in CNC in some form, including me. I got an honorary doctorate of the UNBC.
Yeah.
And but it was interesting to see that, because everybody was trained and educated there,
Yes.
locally and regionally, and so, and that's where the future is in my mind.
Yeah, I think so too. It's interesting you talk about the connection to CNC, and I've been exploring that more since I joined the campus, talking about alumni of CNC. When you walk into any room, you ask who attended CNC. There's a large portion of people who have some type of experience of learning at CNC. So really trying to think about and build a strategy for how do we collect the alumni and create this group of people who are really passionate about being in the North and learning in the North.
Yeah. Now the other thing, that if I look at ourselves, and I've had a company here, the Brink group of companies started about 50 years ago. And one of the largest challenges that I've had all along the way is finding people with management challenges. I gave a presentation at one point, and you see what I said to a group of younger people, that were looking at career opportunities, and saying, the biggest challenge that we have is those people then, 2 years ago already, that we can pay $125,000 to, and everybody went, yeah, I'll take that. No, but that's not the point. The point is, do you have the skill sets?
Yeah.
And so that still is the case, in my opinion. That and you probably see some of our ads. We keep constantly advertising for skill sets that we need. If it is mechanics, if it is millwrights, and technicians. And coming back to what you were saying, is that as the workplace changes in terms of technology, robotics and electronics and all of those other stuff that is the new future, is that can we keep up with it, and that's why it is so important that I believe that collectively we need to put pressure on, in our case, Victoria, which is the capital of BC, for those people that are watching from far away, and to assign capital to Northern BC, because that's where the future lies.
Yeah, it does. Do you know, I think about what you're saying and the need for CNC to be responsive to industry, and it does come with some expense for sure. The equipment's very, very expensive. There's also opportunity for members in the community and industry to participate in programming at CNC through the program advisory committees. So what I've come to learn at CNC is, you have a program, and it could be your carpentry program, for example. There's a group of individuals from community that come together, meet with the deans, meet with the instructors to talk about the program and how to keep it relevant to industry needs.
Yeah.
So that's always so exciting. So I think in your role and your networks, that's something you could do to help CNC, is to encourage people to join our program advisory committee, so that we ensure the students that are, leaving our facility are leaving with the right skills.
Right.
Because unless you're immersed in it, sometimes it's hard to stay very current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it is so important, Cindy, to have you here within our podcast, that is broadly viewed by people in Northern BC and beyond. But to say the skill set developing, but I find a lot of times, and I probably your experience will be the same as mine, is I do a lot of presenting to young people as well, and a lot of times when I do, then it's always classic to me to say, so what career are you pursuing? And you say, well, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Saying, well, maybe what you should do is find out respectfully, is you want to be a truck driver, you want to be a contractor, a house builder, you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, or whatever. Talk to people that are in those professions, and then learn about it. Look at the educational opportunities that are here, to give you that foundation, because at the end of the day, it will become a whole issue of the better you like what you're doing, that makes a change to life. And in fact, I wrote a book about that, as you likely know.
Yeah.
I'm going to share with you some of the other books a little bit later, but the one that I did in regards to that issue is Finding Your Passion. Did you get this book or not?
I did not.
I'm going to sign it for you and
Thank
give you one of the other ones as well. But so what I did is Finding Your Passion, Living the Dream.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do, and saying, hey, John, are you living the dream? Yes, I am, And I've been doing this already when I was young. I had two dreams. We were liberated, I was born in 1940, so makes me approaching 84. I call it 84 years young.
Yep.
And because I want to be 120, so I'm kind of working hard on getting that. So we were liberated by the Canadians April the 12th, 1945. And I was so impressed by the Canadians that I always knew from that point forward I would go to the lands of my heroes. And so I was going to go when I was 17, and then my parents wouldn't let me, and too young, and then I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force for 2.5 years, then worked in, my dad managed a small lumber company. I worked in the lumber industry there, and then my second dream was to go to Canada and then build my own lumber mill. But then I had to go to British Columbia because that's where all the trees are, at least in my mind. And so I finally did that in July of 1965. Oh my God, 60 years ago. So, and I knew I wanted to go to British Columbia. Couldn't speak language, didn't know soul, didn't have a job. Came off this Greyhound bus here, Greyhound Station. Still, well, unfortunately it's no longer there, but it used to be there. And I came off the bus, and I had in my bag I had box. I had 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I had taken with me $150 Canadian from Amsterdam when I left, and when I came off the bus I had $25.47. But what I had lots of is attitude. I'm always an optimist. No matter how tough things are, I always know tomorrow is going to be better. The other one is passion. Whatever I do, I give it 150%. And then work ethic, I work harder than anybody.
Yeah.
And I usually get up at 5:30 in the morning, and then I always make my bed, and then I'm always in the hurry. I always think I'm late. I always have that.
Me too.
I always think I'm late, and so then. But I enjoyed the rest of the day, and it's so important to do that because it makes your life and all the things around you that much easier. If you don't like what you're doing, I say change.
Yes.
And you say, well, I'm 40, this or that, and I say, regardless, change. Or at least do something else that kind of makes your day more pleasurable, because all the people around you in your circle will know you're not a happy whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's great. And I think too, there's so many opportunities for people to pursue their passion.
Yeah.
I even think about my career. Never in my mind would I ever think I'm in the position I'm in, but I had maybe the confidence, the will, or the desire to just follow my passion along and go where it took me.
Yeah.
And I think, number one, that takes courage, because you have to sort of be okay with taking a risk.
Right.
When you're giving up something to follow a passion. So it does take great courage, and I always say you got to choose courage over comfort sometimes.
Right.
But when I look at the potential for careers and jobs that are available now, it's limitless.
Yeah.
And we used to say we're training people for jobs that may not even exist yet.
Right.
They're going to. So I think that whole concept of hard work, following your passion, and just being positive is really good advice for people moving forward.
It sends an amazing signal, right, to people that if somebody likes what they are doing, and even in the people that we select for, especially in management positions, we want that positive attitude. But I say my foundation is always the same: attitude, passion, work ethic.
Yeah.
You say to me, "What kind of a person you're looking for?" I said, "Look at the plate: attitude, passion, work ethic. That's what I'm looking for."
Yeah.
That offers opportunities. So, and then with young people in particular, a lot of people, are quite willing to talk to young people that if they contact somebody that has a career or a job and they like maybe that direction, talk to them. Or visit areas where they may give presentations, but a lot of times entrepreneurs or CEOs or anybody else in a trade, knowing that somebody is interested in what they are doing from a career perspective, they're quite open to have a dialogue about it.
You make me think about an event we just had at CNC, the open house.
Right.
And it was just an incredible event on a Saturday, and potential students came with their families, and the campus was open with instructors, and students were able to just explore different career possibilities. I had an opportunity to watch, a young potential student cooking in potential pro cook program. I went into the civil tech shop lab space, and we got to play with manipulating water and sand and runoff, and just really got to actually use the equipment, and you could just see the sparkle in people's eyes. And I thought, if we could bring younger people age 5, 6, 7 into these facilities and show them this, and just implant some of those ideas in their brains, and show them this is what you can do, and here's an opportunity to try.
Exactly.
It would be fabulous for them, and just the learning that took place that day was so incredibly cool. So it is having those conversations and getting students to have conversations with people in that industry or doing that career, because that's where the passion comes from.
You see, in doing something like that, which is somewhat out of the ordinary for a big organization like yours, and that all of a sudden opens the doors for creating interactions that normally from their perspective would not happen. And I think to do more of that is very important. I believe also is that, what I've always found is for big organizations like the universities, colleges, or whatever they are, wherever they are, to have bringing entrepreneurship in, or industry leaders in, and giving speaking opportunities. Because I look back to myself, I grew up in Holland. I was academically not a success story. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times.
Oh, wow.
That was not good. And so they said to my parents, well, maybe take them to the mentally challenged schools. Well, they were beautiful people, so they said, no, we're not going to do that. So they said, well, maybe what we need to do with him is create a skill sets or a job. So they said, at 13, a furniture maker. Maybe that's because my grandfather was a master carpenter. My dad managed a small lumber company. So they got me into a furniture school or in a factory that made furniture. And then in the evenings I would go to college and become a furniture maker. So that's what I did. And the interesting part about young people in particular, that failing grade 7 3 times, was not overly successful, obviously, and your friends that are around you and that you go to school with together, then all of a sudden you're not part of that group. They can be hard on each other, because I became a laborer. I'm proud of that today, but then it was kind of looked at I don't know about that. In fact, I always remember the last day in school was on Friday. All the kids were going on holidays. And I again had failed grade 7, and so my dad said they had a friend that had a clothing store, so he took me down there on a Sunday, and he needed 3 coveralls, because on Monday I was gonna go to the furniture factory. So I was kind of small for my age, so the smallest ones he had, I had to roll them all the way up, because then the crotch was hanging by my knees. That's cool now, but it wasn't then.
No.
So anyway, so that's kind of what happened, and then that always kind of stayed with me in a way that I always knew I was just as equally smart as all the other guys and girls, but it always kind of stayed with me in a way. So I kind of felt that my dream of going to Canada and then start anew with nothing, was the right thing for me to do, and then build a lumber mill. That's what I was going to do, to prove to me that I could do it. And so when I arrived here in Vancouver off the train, flew into Montreal by air, and then the train across Canada. My God, it's slow. Sometimes I felt like walking alongside of it. Not quite, but anyway, much smaller than that. So 4 days, 5 nights. Arrived in Vancouver and went to the immigration department. Fortunately, there was a German fellow there. I could speak some German. And I told them what I wanted to do. He said, Prince George, go to Prince George, boomtown, that's where the opportunities are. Off I went to Prince George. Came off the bus here, as I said earlier, it was my $25.47. So I just clean up, man, and blah, 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 and then kind of from there on in, the opportunities presented itself. But the one thing that I was going to share with you is that, which you likely know, but, is that it took me until I already was quite successful. By a lot of people say, oh, you're so successful. And I didn't feel that way. I still thought I had failed. And then it was in January of 1997. I already was here for, by then, 32 years. Yeah. And I went into a bookstore here on 3rd Avenue, Books and Company. Books on 3rd, it was called then, I think. And I picked up this book, and I still don't know why I did it. I opened the book and it said, Driven to Distraction, written by Dr. Halliwell, and it was about ADHD. And I said, oh my God, that's me. And I wrote in Dutch, and it's, now I finally know who I am. And, so, and then I started speaking about it more. First I thought it was consider that I'm building a mill, I'm going to banks and making proposals for hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars and saying, okay, this is my proposal, good business plan, blah, blah, blah. Then I said, okay, I got a mental disorder. And he's saying, have a nice day, right? So so it was then stigma attached, less so now, obviously, but, in any event, so the more I found out about it, the more I found that the frequency of occurrence then, I thought, be around 8% of the population. The more I found out about it, the more I started interacting about it, become more public about it, is that I think that the frequency is more like 20%. And then the book that was written by Dr. Halliwell, I did a podcast with him, which is, you are podcast number 230, but that was 203 I did with Dr. Halliwell. He was the guy, amazing individual, has written about 18 books, is a doctorate, PhD, and all of that, and 5 on the distraction side, specialty, and so I podcasted him.
Nice.
Can you imagine that? He wrote a book in 1993. I picked up the book in 1997. Still had it with my Dutch writing.
What a great story.
And so when we were interacting on Podmatch, I said to him that, in my opinion, from my experience, is that I believe the frequency of occurrence is more like 20%. He said, no, John, it's more like 25%. And then I said to him also that, in my opinion, is that probably 50% of the successful is the operative here, that the successful CEOs and entrepreneurs are likely, 50% of them are likely ADHD. He said, no, John, 75%. I agree with that.
I do too.
So that's what. So then when I finally get you to the, so then I included it into my presentations that I did. I do some presentation on ADHD, but in a lot of cases I do other ones on business and whatever it is, and and then, but I usually include something about ADHD in there. And so then I felt I had to write a book about it, ADHD Did you get a copy of this?
I have that one.
Yeah, did I sign it?
No.
I'm going to get you on this sign.
Excellent, thank you.
So I did this one, and so this is all things. That's why I find it so interesting to have you with me here today, in your position, but also in particular because this is all stuff that you were trained in, educated in special education already in your beginning, and then in all the years, the 28 years virtually that you worked in the school districts, and realities that you work with today, but you already are familiar with all of that and kind of saw it probably unfold as well to a certain extent. And I felt I had to write a book about it. So I wrote this one, and it's interesting in the book, and you read it. I wrote it in such a way that you can start it anyway, go that way or that way. It's typical for ADHD, right? So, but very, very popular. But the other part about it, Cindy, is that I believe this is not only for ADHD, but it's also for people that have been affected by trauma or are slow learners. And then the other one is not infrequently happening with Indigenous populations in particular that have been exposed to trauma and difficulties and subsequently slow learning. And I gave away a lot of these books, because it's important to me, so the other part is that what I say is that not only my book, but books about the topic, and the people in general, I said it's virtually impossible to ignore or not find or encounter people with ADHD in your families, in your friends, or in your working environment, or in the public in general. And it's interesting for those people to not only read my book, but other books about the topic, because the people with ADHD tend to be a little bit different. A little bit more sometimes, but they are different, and the better you understand it, but they have this unique skill set that makes them stand out in one way and then make them special in another way. And I was going to add one more thing to it, is that we were advertising for a senior manager in one of our companies, and we had the skill set all laid out, but in addition to that, I had in there that ADHD considered to be an asset. I thought that'd be interesting. So,
wow,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah,
I know with ADHD, there's lots of research being done around women with ADHD, because it is quite often missed and doesn't present itself until females are a little bit older, and it affects women a little bit later on, when they're trying to manage their life.
Right?
Very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because I discussed that probably with Dr. Halliwell, with some of my other people that I interact with about ADHD, that it was misunderstood, respectfully, in a lot of ways, that they say, no, the frequency is more general with man. I don't believe that is the case. I believe it is more similar, but it reflects that it's different.
It presents different
Yeah.
than in males. So I've been doing lots of reading and research on that, just to understand it better, because I do think it's missed a lot for a lot of females.
Yeah, and still today, more so than even with men, it is. And so what I usually like to speak about it in that sense, that it is both, but I find that there's still some reluctance. I cannot tell you how often it has happened that I have somebody I'm interacting with virtually or in life that they say, I've never told anybody that I'm ADHD.
Yep.
That kind of a thing. And happens frequently.
I bet.
Frequently. Or I say, I write a little note to Scott, and I say, ADHD. Even without it, and then at the end they say, so I say be proud of it, so that. Now the other thing that I was going to say about this is that you may find interesting, and you'll already know likely. So when I was writing this book, which was very important to me, and I was sitting in the flight, my overseas flight, I call it, 12 minutes from Vancouver to Victoria.
Victoria.
and I was sitting next to this fella, and he said, I don't know whether you remember me. And I said, yeah, I do kind of. He said, you were writing a book. The book that I was writing is Against All Odds. And that's about all the ups and downs and all the other things. And so, did you get a copy of that?
Not that one.
Oh, I'm going to sign that one for you too.
Excellent.
So, and he said, I'm Tom Romer, and we talked about your book. I said, yeah, I got it, that one, Against All Odds, yeah, I got it down. I said, I'm working on another book, and it's ADHD Unlocked is the title. And he said, that's interesting. He said, we're doing at BCIT. His title was, he's Vice President in Academics, British Columbia Institute of Technology, and, Dr. Tom Romer. And he said, we're doing work on that on micro-certification. And I said, interesting. And then the plane landed, and then we had to get out. And the more I thought about it, then by pure coincidence, the following week, he is sitting in 1F and I'm on 5A. The plane is full, and I saw him there, and I said, oh my God, that is... So I said, Tom, and all the people saying, what is going on? I said, stop by the gate, I need to talk to you. So he stopped by the gate, and then I said, that the book is nearly done, but I'm laying it all out, and that's good, John, and saying, okay, where do we go from here is the question. And that part is missing. And so I talked to him about it, and then he said, well, what we are doing is micro-certification is from a training educational perspective that tends to be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, or whatever the time is. We study a whole lot of things, but then the core set of knowledge that we want to transfer to that student, that's where the focus should be, and is not always there. And so the other things become buried in it, or if they are affected by or benefit from ADHD, they're not very good at those areas, but they're good at the others. And so we refer to that in the book, and I believe, looking forward, that I'm saying to myself, that's the key. Because for me, and I'm a classic example, reason that I failed grade 3, grade 7 3 times, part of that is probably PTSD and a child because of the war years were pretty rough, and the other one is I'm ADHD, and it was never recognized at that point, but still it is fairly obvious that I have skill sets that are fairly obvious, and that my learning train was different than others, but it's not uncommon for people with ADHD. But the other part that I find, Sandy, just for comment, is that what I see now is a lot more people going into the workplace that are starting later in life and looking for skill sets. I'm thinking in particular about the medical system, where there is a shortage of nurses and a lot of other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then then with some of those groups, and I've heard it numerous times from others, that they already are in a lot of cases having families or struggling already with all those things, and have a difficult time even getting into the educational system and all the things, the requirements that they have to meet to become, they may have the skill sets, but they did miss other minor things that are part of their, and is that being recognized?
Absolutely. So, you've said it exactly. There are so many people who want to upskill or learn something new, or advance themselves in their area, and can't because they're working full time, they're raising families. There's all these...
Don't have the money.
So you talk about that micro-certification, and the ministry is calling it micro-credentialing, where we're taking, big things, chunking it, and stacking them up actually so that people can achieve the learning that they need to move forward. Also looking at different ways of offering that instruction. Can we do it a different way?
Exactly.
So for many people, and what we're finding in a lot of rural communities, outside of Prince George, so our other campuses, Fort St. James, Vanderhoof, Quesnel, not so much, they have a fairly big campus, it's quite nice, Burns Lake, they have to come to a larger center to do that hands-on learning that comes with so many of these professions.
Yeah.
So you can teach the theory virtual, online, there's lots of interesting modalities for that instruction to take place, but that practical piece that's really important, that's where we're having a hard time ensuring that there's a place for them to be able to do that learning. So, I've had some conversations. I met with the CEO of Northern Health talking about how can we provide more opportunities for people to do learning in their own place where they live. So in their own hometown, whatever that might be, so that you don't have to leave your family. You don't have to quit your job to go to school. How can we be a little bit more creative, create more accessibility for learning to take place? You're bang on. That is really, really it.
So because I see that now, even that I had in the last year or so, because we have had a lot of challenges even for our company.
Yeah.
And then it's an area of special interest to me because of obviously that's what I've been involved in, for all my life. And I know the difficulty is that in some cases where, young people, in particular, I think a couple of ladies that I know from the past that were trying to get into the nursing program did not have the background, but at the same time were not able to get the training, although they had been in the medical system for many, many years. But to become a nurse, they needed to do all the other things on the outside. And I say that's so unfortunate because they have people that already have worked into the system and simply cannot meet the credentials they had to have, 70 or 72% of whatever it is. And I say, but that doesn't make sense in a lot of cases. So why, what about micro-certification? Or what you might...
Micro-credentialing.
Credentialing. And are there opportunities available to people? Because you get people that, I've known people in saying that go into the technical side, not necessarily the medical side, but the technical side, is saying, well, I say, why don't you go get the training? He said, well, I cannot do all the other stuff because then they have to do that. I have a family to support and all and I said, well, maybe there are other avenues.
Yeah.
How do you get in through that? How can you cut through that?
Yeah, there are certain standards that come from licensing that we have to make sure everybody meets, and that's often beyond our control.
Right.
However, it's that access, and how do we create different ways for people to enter into that program, full-time versus part-time? Can we do more evening classes? Can we have, sort of that high flex learning experiences? Can we do some online and in person, like just being more creative? And that takes, like I said, it's courageous because you're taking a system that has been in existence forever, that is very, planned, it's consistent, it's been the same. This is how we've always done it. Quite often very factory based, if you think about it. It doesn't have that fluidity, that flexibility. So looking at how can we do that? How can we evolve as institutions in higher learning and post-secondary that will create those accessibility points for people to enter, because it is the world today. It is where we need to go. And for some people too, it's starting, something happens in life, I need to put a pause, and now I want to come back. How do we create spaces for that to happen?
So I know of a couple of cases that over the last couple of years where it has involved other technicalities referring in reference to the university more than anything, and the other one was in terms of nursing, is that the fear of saying I don't have the money, and then I don't have the time for the programs, and I don't get quite to that level, and saying that recognizing, I think one person that I must have been talking to, I know it's ADHD, there's no question in my mind about it, but that already makes it then extra difficult, and in saying, is that being recognized, and obviously what you're saying, yes, it is, and I think that's very, very important. Yeah.
And I think too, learners who come in with ADHD or other neurodiversities, there's this whole language and learning around neurodiversity, and how do we change our instructional approaches to ensure we're meeting those needs as well. I think the K-12 system's a little bit further along than the post-secondary system in that, but there are conversations taking place, and there's supports and resources that are available for learners now in post-secondary, in terms of having tutoring, in terms of having additional accommodations for people who need that, whether it's more time or having assisted technology to help with some of the reading and the writing. Those are all options now that weren't when I went to school.
Yeah.
So it's exciting, but we have lots of learning to do still.
Yeah, that's why I was so excited about I felt I had to write a book about it, and then, but there was something that was missing until I started talking to Tom, and then I said, when he said micro-certification, I said, bingo, that's it. Because I know that will lead us to recognize in the end, and as you said, the same is happening now.
Yeah.
So the other book that I was going to show, all my books.
Yeah, good for you.
Did you get a copy of this one?
No.
I'm going to get one for you, and this one. This one is Against All Laws, the first book that I wrote, and people had been talking to me and said, with all the things that you've done, you should write a book about that, and say, okay. And so writing books is not easy.
No.
As you well know. And so especially not an autobiography, you can't write it and say, I don't like it, so I'll do another one. No, you got one crack at it, John. Better do it right. So for 20 years, I stop, start, and then I knew about 5-6 years ago, if I don't do it now, it won't happen. So I did this one now, and it's interesting process. It took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it. And it's not about hurrah, hurrah, how successful John is. It's not about that. It's about all the ups and downs along the way, and falling down, standing up, staying the course, attitude, passion, work ethic, all of that. I'm going to get you a copy of this one as well. Now, you probably been maybe looking at this one here, is that I feel very strongly about health and fitness, and everybody gets every so often a signal in life that's saying, hey, you better smarten up here, and at the end of the year we always go, I do, and many others do, and saying, okay, next year I'm going to do this, that, and that, and then I'm going to go to the gym. And I buy the membership, and I go for 2 weeks, and I can find 100 reasons why I can't go anymore. And so I did. I got a case of diverticulitis, nearly killed me, actually. Came that close. And then I knew serious I had to get a trainer, because I live, as you do, by appointments usually.
Yep.
And I do everything to go out of my way to meet my component, because that's important to me. And so I got a trainer and started training. And and then after about 6-7 years, somebody came up to us and said, have you ever thought about competing? I said, me? Yeah. I said, no. Oh, give me a goal, right? So,
yeah, something to do.
So I then go on to the gym, even more active, and started getting ready for competition. So, and then I think it was 2017, 2017, had competitions here in Prince George. So I competed bodybuilding and physique, came in second and third, qualified me for the provincials, came in third and second, and qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds.
Wow.
And I already was 78 or so.
Good for you.
I was the oldest one. But then the other thing that I did is I started really being careful about diet. My wife is vegan, lectured me with limited success up to that point, but then after that I knew that for me it was important, diet and going to the gym. And then obviously COVID came, and so now I'm back at training again. including today. Actually, I go train very much to go back for competition in 2025.
Good for you.
When I'm 85. And then the other part that I believe is diet, and so I'm writing a book, and it will come out in July. It's pretty much done, and we just at the final stages. So this is a copy of the book. Believe it or not, that's me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's about the lifestyle and then staying fit and saying that. The other thing that I believe everything is possible, so I'm staying positive and, enjoying life.
Yeah, me too. Everything is possible.
And that's the way to go.
Yeah, and I live very optimistically and positive, and I'm that person sometimes when somebody's feeling down, they'll call me and say, I just need a little bit of Cindy's positive. So come on over, let's have some tea.
Yeah, and I like that, and that's very important.
Yeah.
Anything else comes to mind that you wanted to say in regards to?
No, I think this is really good conversation. I appreciate the conversation around ADHD and learning and the opportunity for me to talk about the impacts of neurodiversity in post-secondary learning, and that there are options for people. So if people are feeling like, well, I didn't do very well in school, I won't do well in post-secondary, that is so not true. That there's lots of opportunity for people who struggle. And I think that's a stigma that exists with learning, that if you don't do well in school, K to 12, that you won't do well in post-secondary, and it's so not the case. So I think that's important.
And the other thing, I'm always ready to give presentation. I've given many presentations at CNC and UNBC or in other locations. It's always, at least in my opinion, important to share.
Yeah.
Especially issues not only about the ADHD, but kind of starting from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And building entrepreneurship. The other thing that I believe is very important in northern British Columbia is that stimulating entrepreneurship that is very important, because that is another resource that is very important for us to have. Yeah. People that go out there, lay awake all night and wonder what they can do and make things happen that are, people say, well, that cannot be done, or but the entrepreneurs that keep going, and but also create inspirations for others and saying, if he can do it, I can do it. That kind of a thing.
Exactly.
But
to look at those challenges as opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm always ready to give presentations where the opportunity presents itself. Excellent. And to young people in particular. So what I did now is I signed 3 books for you, Cindy.
Perfect. Thank you.
Now the other part that you find about the books, I'm not asking you to pay anything, but you just want to take a look at the price of the book.
I see that. I saw that actually when the book was there. I noticed things, and the $25.47, very clever.
And the other one will be the same as well.
That's an important number for you.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I did notice that.
Cindy, it was a delight. I will get you a copy of the other book. It's coming out in, I think, we are on schedule, maybe a little bit ahead of schedule, Living Young, Dying Old, and,
Thank you.
So it was a pleasure to have you.
Really
I'll give
nice
you a big hug, but we are all hooked up right now, so we do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Appreciate it. Take care.
For sure.